You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Don't you give up.
Don't you give up.
Keep moving on.
Keep moving on.
You gotta put one foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot and lead with love. Lift up your eyes.
Lift up your eyes.
Don't you despair.
Don't you despair.
Look up ahead.
Look up ahead.
The path is there.
The path is there.
You gotta put one foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot and lead with love. And lead with love. I know you're scared.
I know you're scared.
Well, I'm scared too.
Well, I'm scared too.
But here I am,
But here I am.
right here with you.
Right here with you.
Come on, we gotta put one foot
And lead with love. One foot from the other. And lead with love.
You gotta put one foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot and lead with love. Don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Don't you give up.
Don't you give up.
Keep moving on.
Keep moving.
Come on, we gotta put
One foot from the other. And lead with love. One foot from the other.
and lead with love. We gotta put one foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot and lead. Repeat that last line. Here we go. And lead with love. Once more. And lead with love. Last time. And lead with love. All right, thanks.
Good morning. Who needs coffee when you got a song like that, huh? Welcome, all Unitarian Universalists, and those who do not quite perhaps identify as you yet. Feel like I see a lot of new folks here this morning. A gracious welcome to everyone. So nice to see you all here today. And for those of you who are joining us online, a warm welcome to you as well. Please let us know you are here with us by saying hello on Facebook or YouTube. Our mission here at Sunnyhill, the Unitarian Universalist Church of the South Hills, is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Mary Jo Hennessy, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. If you are a newcomer or a visitor to this congregation, please, at some point when you go home, go to sunnyhill.org and click on the New to Sunnyhill button that you will see there to receive more information about our congregation and to sign up to receive our weekly electronic newsletter called The Beat. There you will find a lot of great information about what is going on here in our very vibrant congregation. And with the fall coming up, there are a lot of activities planned. And if you are so fortunate to get here perhaps early for service, surprising thought, I know, there's always the announcements are on the screens before service begins as well. For all of those you here in person, a gentle reminder, it's time to close down our phones and other electronic devices so we can enjoy the service uninterrupted by buzzing or ringing. Today's service is entitled, What is Unitarian Universalism? This service will provide an overview of Unitarian Universalist theology and why it is important to us and to our world. Our opening words were written by the Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf, who we had a great pleasure in. They actually were here earlier this summer and presented a service to us. It was just wonderful. This is a congregation that gathers in faith, not faith in one religion or one God or any one way. We gather in faith of the power of diversity, the power of love, and the hope of a world transformed by our care. We gather in faith in ourselves and those around us. Not a faith that requires perfection or rightness in one another, rather a faith that in our shared imperfection, we may learn to stumble and fall together. Faith that we will help one another to rise and to try again and again. We are Unitarian Universalists. Sorry. I forgot to read the directions this morning.
I didn't put the words in there. So
No, they're here. Okay. Our chalice lighting, now that I've read the directions this morning, is in the form of a responsive reading. After each line I read, please respond by saying, "We light our chalice." For the illuminating light of truth, we light our chalice. For the purifying fire of justice, we light our chalice. For the life-sustaining flame of love, we light our chalice. For the hope-filled brightness of this gathered community, we light our chalice.
Good morning. It's good to see everyone. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing, "Oh, We Give Thanks." This is another call and response song. We did so well at that for the first one. We're going to try it again. This is a song, in terms of Unitarian Universalism, I'll be talking more later about what that means, obviously. But if there's one spiritual practice that I can commend to everyone, and especially Unitarian Universalists, it is the practice of being thankful. Being thankful to be here today in this room with other people, being thankful to have the courage to show up whenever and however you can, being thankful for the support and love of this community. So let's sing it like we mean it this morning. Oh, we give thanks.
Oh, we give thanks
For this precious day.
for this precious day.
For all gathered
For
here,
all gathered here,
and those far away,
and those far away,
for this time we share
we share
with love and care.
with love and care.
Oh, we give thanks
Oh, we give thanks
for this precious day.
for this precious day.
Oh, we give thanks
Oh, we give thanks
for this precious day.
for this precious day.
For all gathered
For
here,
all gathered here,
and those far away,
far away,
for this life we share
we share
with love and care.
love and care.
Oh, we give thanks
Oh, we give thanks
for this precious day. One more
for this
time.
precious day.
Oh, we give thanks
Oh, we give thanks
for this precious day.
for this precious day.
For all gathered
For
here,
all gathered here,
and those far away,
far away,
for this time we share
we share
with love and care.
love and care.
Oh, we give thanks
Oh, we give thanks
for this precious
for this
day.
precious day.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning. Before I call all the kiddos up for our time for all ages, I wanted to give some details about our RE program this year. We welcome all children back to our religious education program on September 10th for activities and fun, and then the following Sunday they will separate into their age-differentiated classes. During Sunday morning services, we'll have the following classrooms: pre-K to first, 2 to 4, and 5 to 8 grades. At 10:30 each Sunday starting September 17th, we will also offer youth group to our high school students. Our youth group for high school is really getting a shake-up this year. They'll be focused entirely on environmental and climate justice, and we'll have community projects, guest speakers, and fun learning and growing together, all while making a tangible difference in our world. Tanya Broaded and Jay Pullen will be leading this charge, and I could not be more excited about what they have in store. Each Sunday in RE, we open with a chalice lighting. It says, "We are Unitarian Universalists, Church of the open mind, loving heart, and helping hands." And that, my friends, is where you come in. That's where I need the most help. We will need about 40 adult teachers and helpers to bring our religious education program to the many children we have here at Sunnyhill. Please see me after the service to learn more about getting involved in our RE program. In our classrooms, you're not just teaching. You're helping to shape a future generation to embrace our shared values: compassion, justice, and love. In my mind, there's really nothing more powerful than that. Please join us. And with that, I would love to welcome any children that are present for our story. Come on up. Come on, friends. Good morning, everyone. All right, so I'm curious. How many people here use a bag to carry their stuff in? Anybody use a bag to carry stuff in? Yeah, I see some people out there. Maybe it's a backpack, or a backpack, or a gym bag, or a purse. Maybe it's a briefcase. Yeah, a backpack. Maybe it's a briefcase or a bag, or even a toolbox. There are lots of different things we could put stuff in. It can even be an electronic item that has the same purpose, I suppose, like a cell phone with all the information that you need right at your fingertips. Think of that box or bag or device that you use every day. I bet some of you have some really cool or interesting items inside. You can't show me right now, but after the service, if anyone wants to show me what interesting things they have in their bag, I'm pretty curious. This morning, though, I brought my backpack to show you all some of the things that I rely on every day. First up, we have, what is this thing? A computer, of course. This is my most used item. I use it every single day. Yep, I'm sure lots of moms have computers. I use it to send emails, to make up lesson plans, to update our website, and so much more. And I also need this to go with it, the plug, to plug it in. Let's see what else I have. I've got some pens and highlighters. Okay, what else? Some first aid supplies, just in case something goes wrong. I also keep with me some really beautiful cards that Sunnyhillers have given me throughout the years. Might recognize this one. It always helps me whenever I'm feeling down or frustrated to know I have those cards in there, so it kind of lifts my spirits. All these things are really just tools, however. I can learn without them, and even do my work without them, although it would probably be a lot harder. There are some other things, though, that I would find it really hard to do without. Respect for other people, kindness and compassion, understanding and acceptance and encouragement, curiosity and a passion for learning, listening to other people, working for justice and to create a beloved community free from racism and oppression, the feeling of being connected to everything around me. Those things might seem familiar. There are Unitarian Universalist principles in action. They aren't things that you can actually shove in your backpack, are they? But they're gifts that I carry with me every single day, and you do too. These are some of the blessings of being a Unitarian Universalist. The dictionary defines blessing as, among other things, something that helps you or brings you happiness. So these are definitely some of the blessings of being a Unitarian Universalist. So as you pack your backpack for the start of school, or your gym bag, or your lunchbox, or your purse, or even your cell phone, with all the tools that you need to do your daily work, think about those blessings that you bring with you from your church community, from Sunnyhill. Today in our religious education class, we'll be creating something to add to all of your backpacks or any bag that you use every day to help you remember that every day you carry with you the blessings of respect, kindness, encouragement, curiosity, listening, justice, and interconnectedness with every living thing. May it be so, and may you share those blessings with the world. And with that, we will head to our RE class. Let's sing the children out.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go, as you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
As many of you know, Sunnyhill is a member congregation in the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, also known as PEN. PEN is the primary interfaith social justice organizing group in our area, and it's one of our primary connections with social justice organizing in the city of Pittsburgh. Today, we're delighted to have with us Leah Kozak, who is a lead organizer with Penn. Leah was the associate director of the Micah Institute at New York Theological Seminary and was an active member of South Bronx Unite and Greater NYC for Change. She obtained her Master's of Divinity from New York Theological Seminary in 2016 and moved to Pittsburgh in 2017. We're delighted again to have Leah with us. She's going to share a little bit about what's going on with Penn right now.
Thank you so much, Pastor Jim, and thank you everyone for having me here today. It's an honor to be here with you all. I've been down here at Sunnyhill a few times for different meetings and meeting different folks and getting connected, but this is my first time here on a Sunday service, and it's just so lovely. And I love this chalice. I think it's so beautiful. I am a Christian, but I love working in multi-faith, interfaith contexts. So whenever I get to come and visit churches, it's a joy to meet people and see different ways folks worship. So I'm here on behalf of the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, and PIN, as you know it, has been active with Sunnyhill for many, many years. We have many active members involved as we focus in on congregational organizing. And if you don't know, for some of you newer folks in the congregation here, PIN has been around Allegheny County for over 20 years. So it's quite a while to focus in on social justice collectively. We are a 501c3 and we are multi-faith. So we have Unitarians, Christians, Muslims, Jewish congregations involved. And it's a wonderful way to connect your faith with the larger community and get involved with other people who are interested in social justice as you are. To give you a little update, just a brief update on where PIN is at. Since the pandemic, PIN has sort of been kind of coming up again, sort of redefining itself, reconnecting itself with its existing congregations and some of the more inactive congregations. I think since COVID and since things have sort of opened up a bit, there's been a time and a space where we've just spent time reconnecting and re-engaging with our base. And out of that came some initiatives last year where we went back to the basics with our congregations. So we offered 4 different trainings on congregational faith-based organizing. And through that, we covered just the foundational components of doing one-to-ones and identifying self-interest. And as people of faith, not only self-interest, but what we believe our faith is compelling us to focus in on. Through those trainings, we commissioned about a dozen of our congregations to do listening campaigns in their local communities. And if you recall last spring, you heard from folks from PIN here at Sunnyhill. We had Pat Murray, and we had Vicki Chan and Michael and a few others that reached out to you to do focused one-to-ones to understand where your hearts were at. Not only with social justice, but also what was going on here in your local community and church. What resulted out of that was a collective listening session with all of PIN and all of our congregations. So Pat and others came back together with the other leaders at PIN, and then we listened collectively and voted on what we want to focus on congregationally for a season to come. And so what we've decided on collectively with PIN are 4 different areas of social justice, which we believe are dominant right now in like the greater Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, and really across the country. One is criminal justice reform, and that's where we focus specifically in right now on a lot of the issues we've been seeing at the Allegheny County Jail, where we've seen about 20 deaths in the past 2 years inside the jail. So we've been organizing specifically around that. We've been focusing in on public education and the school-to-prison pipeline. We're focusing on environmental justice, not only climate change, but environmental racism and air quality, especially that affects Allegheny County and more specifically areas in the Mon Valley. And we're focusing on gun violence prevention, and we do that in a partnership with Ceasefire PA, and I know Ceasefire has been here before presenting, and I know y'all are very active with Ceasefire. So those are the 4 areas we've collectively chosen to focus in on for a season to come. And what we've done along with that are we've created task forces. So there are task forces and task force chairs that are really leading up those initiatives with our members. And this is across congregations all over Allegheny County. So if you're new to Sunnyhill, or if you're new to Pittsburgh or Allegheny County, and you're interested in working not only with Sunnyhill, but with a larger group, reach out to us after. Pat Murray is here. Vicki is around here somewhere. Michael, Fran. There are a lot of people here that are involved with PIN and really doing the hands-on. And I don't know if Paul Lawson is here today, but Paul is co-chairing our book club, our PIN book club. So there are a lot of ways to get connected and get involved beyond what you do here locally. I mean, obviously everyone's time, we have only a certain amount of capacity, but depending on where your heart is and what compels you to move your faith into action, as we've talked about here today, and I believe that's one of the core components of the Unitarian Church, there are opportunities to do that. And so I'm going to leave it right there for now because I'm going to be around after the service for the coffee hour to talk more, and I can share more about how PIN has gotten to where it is now and some of the different things we've done in the past and different ways for you to connect and get involved. But in the meantime, I'm very happy to be here with you all today, and I'm so thankful for the support of Sunnyhill, your time, talents, your resources contributing to PIN and the larger good for justice in Allegheny County. It doesn't go unnoticed. And everyone at PIN, the executive committee, the board, the staff, we're all incredibly grateful. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Judy Spiegel, and I'm a member of the Pastoral Care Team. The mission of the Pastoral Care Team is to reach out to any members of Sunnyhill going through difficult life events, whatever they may be. We believe that it's our personal connections with each other that offers a special kind of loving presence. And that connection is really what makes this congregation, I think, very special. You can call the church office, send an email to pastoralcare@sunnyhill.org, or you can contact any of us directly. The Pastoral Care Team is here for you, so please don't you hesitate to contact any of us or leave a message at when you come in the front door. On the right, there's a table, and there are joys and concerns there. Each week at this time in the service, we share our joys and sorrows that have been submitted by members of the congregation. We share things that we are celebrating, as well as the things that we are mourning, so that they need not be held alone. I have 2 sorrows to share with you this morning. One is for Jonna Gravitt, from Jonna Gravitt, sorry. As some of you may know, part of my job responsibilities are to manage new hires. Well, tonight, August 21st, I reached out to one of my new employees, Derek, to check in with him on how his first day of work went. He shared some concerning news with me. He told me that he was robbed at gunpoint this past weekend and is struggling to come to terms with it. He is physically fine, but emotionally he is traumatized. I asked him to let me know if there's anything I can do for him, and he asked that I say a prayer for him. I am submitting this concern to send him positive healing thoughts. To Jonna, to Derek, to all his friends and family, we hold you in our hearts. I have a sorrow submitted by Jim McGaw. Suzanne Fagan, who joined Sunnyhill just a few months ago, died this week after having been diagnosed with cancer. We will hold a memorial service for her at Sunnyhill on Saturday, September 30th at 1 p.m. To Suzanne's family and friends, we hold you in our hearts. As we listen to our musical meditation this morning, we invite anyone who feels moved to do so to come forward and light a candle, place it in the sand, and then return to your seat.
Ubi caritas et amor Deus ibi est. It's an ancient Latin song which is usually translated as, where charity and love abound, there is God. And charity in this sense is less about being patronizing and more about being open-hearted. So one way of thinking about this phrase is where open-heartedness and love abound, there you may find the sacred. Ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est. I invite you to join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Love abounds. Love abounds in a parent's adoring gaze. Love abounds in children's playful laughter. Love abounds in the buzz and bustle of life-giving community. Love abounds in the kiss of the sun on the earth. Love abounds in moments of deep empathy and caring when one hand reaches for the hand of another who might be in pain or discomfort. Love abounds in the great dance of all existence. Let us pause for a moment of silence as we consider the love that sustains us, that brings us comfort, that reminds us again and again of the wonder of being alive. May we experience love each day as givers and receivers, participants in upholding and sustaining the thread of love that came before us and will continue after us, weaving that thread into every aspect of our being, creating a quilt held together by love that is sometimes fragile, but always and forever just strong enough. Amen. Today's sermon is maybe the 7th or 8th sermon that I've given each year with this same title, What is Unitarian Universalism? I thought about adding the phrase, what the heck is Unitarian Universalism? But it won't fit on our sign out front if I do that. And each year I've taken a little bit of a different approach to answering this question. One year I spoke of the roots of Unitarianism and Universalism in the first few hundred years of the Christian church, how most early Christians believed in one God, or Unitarianism, rather than the Trinity that became the norm following the Council of Nicaea and the Nicene Creed, and how Universalism, the belief that in the end all will be saved by a loving God, was also present as an important belief among many early Christians. Another year, I spoke of the deep roots of Unitarian Universalism in the radical wing of the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century, how we are reformers by nature and view each and every institution, including our own, as in need of continuous reform and renewal. How UUs have seen the need to address the misdeeds and abuses of the Western Church by tearing down its rigid structures and toppling its hierarchies and putting in their place the priesthood and prophethood of all members of the faith. And yet another year addressing the same question of what is Unitarian Universalism, I focused on developing a personal elevator speech, an articulation of UU faith that can be spoken in about the time it would take for an average elevator ride. And I began and ended with my own elevator speech, which emphasized how we are committed to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, which brings together each individual's inherent worth and dignity with the recognition of the fact that everyone is deeply connected to everyone else and everything else in the world. All of these approaches to the question of what is Unitarian Universalism are valid and worth considering, and each of them contains important aspects of our history and theology. But today I'd like to answer this question by speaking of my own personal experience of Unitarian Universalism and what it has meant to me. As I do so, I bear in mind the words of one of our Unitarian forebears, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "The true preacher can be known by this, that he deals out to the people his life passed through the fire of thought." The first time I remember stepping foot inside a UU church was when, at about age 10, I went with my parents to a poetry reading at the First Unitarian Church in Columbus, Ohio. My father was a United Methodist minister, and I grew up in Methodist churches mostly in rural north central Ohio. But my father was and still is a poet, and there were not many venues for him to share his poetry in rural Ohio. So we went to the great city of Columbus, where my dad shared his poems and where we heard the poems of a number of others. What I observed at that Unitarian church in Columbus as a 10-year-old in the early 1970s was vastly different from what I saw at our Methodist church in Shelby, Ohio. At this poetry reading, there were actual hippies and college professors, people of color and out-of-the-closet gay and lesbian people, feminists and political radicals, and the poems that people shared were all over the place. Wonderfully eccentric free verse, biting satire, heartfelt love ballads, and poems about liberation and joy and ecstasy in all of their various forms. The Unitarians seemed so wildly exotic to me that I liked them immediately, in the way that all children love colorful, eccentric nonconformists. And in the back of my mind, I always had a soft spot for these strange-seeming UUs, whom I didn't quite understand, but found fascinating and so very different from the people and the communities where I grew up. Now, fast forward with me about 25 or 30 years later to a time when, in my mid to late 30s, I suddenly found myself yearning for religious community. I was newly clean and sober after 20 years of struggling with addiction, and I was newly single after a failed marriage that left me wondering who I was and what I wanted. I was in one of those liminal spaces that we experience from time to time in our lives. Richard Rohr defines liminal space, which I've spoken about before, as a place where we are betwixt and between the familiar and the completely unknown. There alone is our old world left behind, while we are not yet sure of the new existence. That's a good space, Rohr says, where genuine newness can begin. I knew that I was on the threshold of something new and that I needed to be in a community that would enable me to explore this newness and what it might mean for me. A place where I would be accepted exactly as I was, even as I was becoming something yet unknown. I was a participant in a 12-step group that happened to meet at a UU church just up the street from where I lived at the time. And each week, while I was waiting for the meeting to start, I would look at the church bulletin board and peruse the literature that was next to it. And I remembered my earlier experiences with the UUs as a child, and eventually I attended a Sunday morning service at that church. That first week, and for a few weeks after that, I would sneak into the back of the church after the service had begun so I wouldn't have to talk with anyone. And I would leave just before it ended. And during the services, I found myself quietly weeping almost the whole time. At the time, I wasn't sure why I cried, but now I think it had to do with the power of experiencing community, especially after a period of emotional and spiritual isolation, which is the hallmark of addiction. Even without interacting one-on-one with the other people in that congregation, just sitting with them, I felt loved and accepted just as I was, and I felt like I was a part of something that was greater than just myself alone. And that's the first aspect of my Unitarian Universalism experience that I would like to hold up as a defining characteristic. That our faith, when it's at its best, meets you where you are, exactly as you are, without judgment and without expectations of becoming something other than what you are before being accepted. At a UU congregation, if it is healthy and at least somewhat functional, you are loved just as you are. Eventually, I did start introducing myself to other people at the congregation whose services I attended, and I became more and more involved in the life of that church, first as a singer and musician, and subsequently as a fundraiser, and eventually as a lay leader in several roles. During this time of increasing involvement in leadership with this congregation, I found myself frequently at odds with another member of the church who was prickly and challenging to get along with. And I swear it wasn't just me. Others also found that they frequently clashed with this individual who seemed to have strong opinions about almost everything and insisted on expressing these strong opinions loudly, frequently, and sometimes disruptively. My immediate reaction was to argue with this person. At committee meetings, I found myself in lengthy debates with them that really never ended well. In fact, at the end of one of these meetings, not only were the two of us frustrated, so too was everyone else who had to sit through our lengthy and useless arguments. But at one of these meetings, I had something like a conversion experience as I looked over at this person, fully prepared to argue against whatever they said next. I suddenly found myself feeling affection for them and a sense that after all was said and done, here was a person who was passionate about this congregation, who wanted it to thrive, who felt this community was important enough to spend their time and energy supporting it. In that moment, I felt deeply and profoundly connected with this person in a way that I hadn't before. And it became clear to me that this sense of connection was more important than any disagreement that we might have been having. In other words, for the first time, I truly understood that being in right relationship is more important than being right. And from that point forward, while we still clashed from time to time, I no longer saw this person as my sworn enemy. And that's the second defining characteristic of Unitarian Universalism that I would like to highlight this morning. Ours is a covenantal religious tradition in which relationship is of primary importance. Right relationship is more important than right belief. We won't always agree with each other, but we understand when rifts occur, it is far more important to heal and restore the relationship than it is to continue arguing about why we are right and the other person is wrong. A third aspect of Unitarian Universalism, as I have experienced it, that has been transformational for me, has been a particular approach to issues of justice. Namely, that working to become more inclusive, equitable, and welcoming to all means expanding from the margins rather than calling everyone inward toward the center. There's a tendency in any religious or cultural institution to try to assimilate other individuals or groups. The tendency is to say to others, either explicitly or implicitly, just become more like we are and everything will be all right. And in such institutions, processes are put in place to educate people and assimilate them, to bring them toward the center of the group. But that's not what we do as Unitarian Universalists, at least not in recent years. Rather than being assimilation-minded, we strive to be growth-minded and to expand not by pulling everyone toward the center, but rather growing from the margins, especially from the margins where people have been excluded because of their race, ethnicity, class, sexuality, gender, or ability. While our Universalist roots declare that no one is outside the circle of big love, we now realize that the circle has never grown wider by drawing people toward the center and assimilating them into some version of the UU Borg, for those of you who are familiar with Star Trek. Rather, the circle grows wider as a result of the vision and work with, for, and by people at the margins who have experienced oppression and have been historically excluded from the center in various ways. In a UU congregation, again, when we are at our best, we don't invite those on the outside looking in to become more like us. Rather, we transform ourselves, our attitudes, our behaviors, policies, and practices in order to draw the circle wider and become more inclusive, more equitable, and more just as a result. This work for diversity, justice, equity, and inclusion is not easy. It is challenging, and it forces us to face difficult truths about ourselves, our society, and our institutions, even our beloved congregations. But in the end, this approach is the best way to be in right relationship with all of those people within and beyond our walls. So in summary, what is Unitarian Universalism? Based on my own experience and personal growth as a UU, I would say that Unitarian Universalism is a living religious tradition that says at least three things to any and to all. First, you are loved just as you are. Second, relationship is more important than being right. And third, justice is about widening the circle, especially from the margins. Unitarian Universalism has been for me a life-changing, life-saving faith. I hope and pray that it might be for you as well. Amen. I'm going to ask you again to rise in body or spirit
As we sing our hymn, The Fire of Commitment. From the light of days remembered, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. Thank you. Please be seated.
It is time for our offering. Today we have a designated offering, and it will benefit the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, which we all now know is also known as PIN. As we heard earlier, PIN is a network of congregations and organizations in southwestern Pennsylvania committed to drawing together people of faith to act powerfully on local and regional issues of justice and fairness. PIN has been an invaluable social justice partner for Sunnyhill in recent years, and we have benefited from their help in a variety of ways. If you'd like to make a gift via our online giving system, you can power up those phones now. You can do so by going to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says online giving, or you can give by text at 412-324-3130. And for those of you who are here with us in person, our ushers will be coming around and passing the baskets in just a moment. The piece that Rini is about to play is a jazz standard titled But Beautiful. And I kind of wish we had someone who was going to sing it for us. The lyrics are as follows. Love is funny, or it's sad, or it's quiet, or it's mad. It's a good thing, or it's bad, but beautiful. Love is tearful, or it's gay. It's a problem, or it's play. It's a heartache either way, but beautiful. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Just a couple of things. In our fellowship hall, we have a table set up with some cards to sign for our kids who just went off to college, including my own daughter. But if you would look out for that table, I'm sure they would appreciate getting some love from Sunnyhill at this point. Also, Leah Kozak, our pen organizer, is going to be here after the service for anyone who wants to stay and learn more about pen and what's going on, and how you and our congregation can be more involved. For now, I'll close with these words. As we part now one from another, let these be our thoughts. If that which is most holy lies within the human person, and if the greatest power in the world shines flickering and uncertain from each individual heart, then it is easy to see the value of human associations dedicated to nurturing that light, the couple, the family, the religious community. For the power of good in any one of us must at times waver, but when a group together is dedicated to nurturing the power of good, it is rare for the light to grow dim in all individuals at the same moment. So we borrow courage and wisdom from one another to warm us and keep us until we're together again. Go in peace.